What up, friends? Coming at you live from a channel nobody knows. And today we're going to be reviewing Colde's newest EP, Idealism. Korean singer-songwriter and collab artist extraordinaire Colde comes back with his third EP since he started back in 2018. Colde's a pretty consistent guy. He knows his sound well and ventures outside of it every so often, but he always uses his R&B vibes as a solid foundation to return to and to keep himself grounded. This one is no different, but he does experiment a bit more here and there, and also opted for a more natural R&B sound as opposed to his more contemporary R&B stuff that he's been doing recently. I don't have lyric translations for these, unfortunately, so I will mostly be basing my review on the instrumentals and the vocal performances, as usual. The album opens up with Lighter, and this is different. A Lighter flick initiates a sort of gritty, punky opener that just kicks things up to 11. I really love Colde's desperate and exasperated vocals. The flow is good, and the muffle effect on him adds that sort of youthful energy while being paired with that dirty bass line. It's just a match made in heaven. This is especially true when that attitude-driven guitar kicks in. I also love the random sound effects that are thrown in. It adds to those manic vibes. I will say, it's very unfitting for the EP because no other songs on this thing sound like this, but it's a good track. The mood is instantly back down to chill with Wolf. A smooth and sensual riff and a simplistic drum beat taking the lead on this one. Colde's vocals are pretty sweet as well, pairing well with the natural and more homely instrumentals. The claps that come in during the chorus also add to this very homely feeling, and that suave bass line leads the chorus back into the verses extremely well. It's expertly done, and I don't see stuff like that too often, especially in the sort of Korean K-pop sphere. I also really like how he does the same thing, but with the guitar for the second chorus. It's a pretty cool switch-up. With The Museum, the string intro is a nice touch, although I feel the main instrumental is a bit too simple for my liking. That sweet and light guitar is nice, although it doesn't really demand a lot of attention compared to the previous tracks. It's not a bad song per se, but it is one of the more there songs for me. I do really like it when the piano gets more of a presence on the second half, though. Dream is a bit more of what I personally like. A pretty lively guitar to break up the pace, along with a more funk-driven groove to keep things interesting. Colde's delivery is pretty smooth here, along with some sort of cocky undertones that are pretty amusing. That chorus is also super sweet, especially when the organ sort of syncs up with his voice. I just love how he managed to make this track both upbeat and sensual at the same time. He even manages to throw in some of his old hip-hop styled flows in here and there, which was pretty cool to see. Now with Tunnel, instrumentals are always pretty hard to pull off well, I think. And I don't think an EP this short really needed one. It's a short piano-driven track that just doesn't really add much to the overall vibe, I find. I would have preferred if it was fleshed out into an actual song or just cut entirely. At least to make room for another full song. A song nobody knows, this is a good one. The dark and dreamlike guitars along with the sluggish beat, they have such great chemistry together. And Colde's intimacy in his vocals hit its stride here. It sort of feels like the pining songwriter or artist at work. It's a great ballad that utilizes the strings really well, too. That orchestral outro is probably my favorite moment on this entire EP, to be honest. Blue Candle ends the EP on a pretty heartfelt and acoustic note. It's a pretty fitting end for a project like this, I think. There is definitely an elegance to this one, especially in the way that the vocals, guitar, and subtle electric instruments in the background just kind of come together. It's really airy and delicate. It may be simple, but I feel like it pretty much encompasses everything that the EP is about. I also really like the fitting effect of him blowing out a candle at the end to call back to the flick of the lighter at the beginning of the EP. I see you, Colde. I see. That's big brain. I see you. All in all, another solid output from Colde. He is definitely sticking to his guns, but I like that he went with more natural-sounding R&B this time around. Some songs and elements definitely do feel a bit like retreaded ground or just kind of there, though. I'd like to see more of what he was doing with Lighter. I think a full EP or album like that might be pretty cool, or just something to shake up his sound a bit more. Overall, I'm feeling a decent 7 on this EP. Pretty good, pretty good. Very consistent with his other stuff. Of course, we do have to talk about the album cover on the show, and this is a pretty cool album cover, I think. The pastel-like look adds to the very dreamlike imagery of the actual image. It's very simplistic, very modern, I guess you could say. I don't know how well it fits the R&B aesthetic of the EP, but it definitely does fit the idea of Idealism and the more lighter notes of the album. Anyway, those are my thoughts on this EP. What did you guys think about it? Did you also think it was pretty much on par for Colde stuff? Did you like this one more or less? Let me know. And until the next one, farewell.